Today's story is New Testament, Gospel with Jesus and his disciples. Remembering that you have to imagine his face and that of his disciples, Jesus in green, and that scale doesn't matter. So this man could have a dog this big. And finally, we always begin our story with a song. Bible, Bible, tell your story, speak to us about God's glory. There's so much we need to know. Tell us how God loves us so. So in this story, Jesus is with his disciples. He will have 12. We don't know how many were with him in this story. But they are asking, give us more faith, they say to him. They want to fill themselves with God's Spirit and they don't know how. And Jesus replies, if your faith is as big as a mustard seed, you could say to a mulberry tree, dig yourself up and walk to the ocean. Goodness. Well, a mustard seed is a tiny little seed. Our hound dog here is guarding some. He's probably the only person in the room who can smell them. But they are so tiny. I don't know if you can see how tiny they are. I'm holding it between my two fingers. Mustard seed is tiny. But then when it grows, it could grow. There's some that just grow into bushes, but some grow into trees. So, not small, but very, very, very unexpectedly large. And we're told that this tree, if you have enough faith, you could tell it, hey tree, go visit the ocean. And off it would trot to the ocean. Goodness. We'll bring him back. In another story, Jesus also talks about the mustard seed growing to such greatness, and that it would attract birds. And in yet another story, the mustard tree is so big that it yields enough shade for a man and even his horse. Enough shade for that. That's a pretty big tree from that little tiny seed. And that's our whole story. That's it. So where are we going with this? It's a story about faith. It's a story about allowing yourself to grow from a little tiny seed to something so great. So great. And how do you grow faith? The mustard seed doesn't need to. It's in it to just grow. It's in every child to just grow. They have no control over that. They just grow. That's what kids do. As far as growing your faith, perhaps with prayer, perhaps with reading Bible stories, perhaps with just thinking about being a good person, maybe just with going outside sometimes and watching the clouds, and at nighttime dreaming back and forth with the stars. I think faith is something that grows naturally if you're just allowing yourself to become a good person. And there's one other aspect of this that we need to remember. You don't only need to believe in God. You don't only need to have faith in God. You have to remember the other part of that story is that God has faith in you. And that's a wonderful place to be living. Bible, Bible, tell your story, speak to us about God's glory. There's so much we need to know